Now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today and our reviewer, Lisa Babb. Lisa is a member of the AIGA National Board. She previously served as the Assistant Director of MODA, the Museum of Design Atlanta, and was a professor of graphic design at the Savannah College of Art and Design for over 10 years. Lisa's also asked me to ask you to get a piece of paper handy if you have that with you when you're tuning in at home. She's going to have something interactive for you to do. So grab a piece of paper and we'll turn it over to Lisa now and I'll come back for the Q&A.
Hello, everybody. It is so exciting to be here with you. This week has been just magnificent and majestic. And it's kind of like a dream come true to talk about design every single day. So welcome to my little office, and please get a piece of paper and let's get ready to get started. So I want to begin with this. And it's not so much a quote as much as it is kind of the sum total of what I have come to fully believe after all these years in design. And when you really want to find your folk, because I always want to find my folk, you have to put yourself out there, and that's how you get it to happen. So when you find the right fit, you don't have to hide any of yourself. And if you're hiding some of yourself, you need to keep seeking. That means it's not yet the right fit. So let's start to flesh that out a little bit, and let's get acquainted. I asked you to get a piece of paper, and I just want you to fold it in 4. I folded mine down and then across, and tear that into 4 equal, pieces of paper. And let's do some things. On the first one, I want you to write, I am. And I want you to list all of the things that you are. And I don't want you to overthink it. This is not an exam. This is none of that. I really just want you to write down how you show up and who you are and claim it. And just keep writing words down there. And as this talk goes on, if more feel like they work, just keep adding them in. So the first one is I am. The next one, I want you to write down, I care deeply about. What do you care deeply about? And just, again, don't overthink it, but list those, the things that really matter to you at the end of the day. Everybody still okay? I hope so. On the third one, I want you to write down, my dream job or opportunity is. And I want you to list those. Just what it should feel like. Should it have a ping pong table? Should it allow you flex time? Does it have maternity leave? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Put as much as you can. Details matter. And then on the last piece, I want you to write, my design is. And that's where I want you to go bold, go big. Talk about how your work shows up when it is you being your very best design self. And this is what I want you to do. So those 4 sheets, I am, I care deeply about, my dream job and opportunity is, my design is. Okay? And you're gonna write. I'm gonna give you a moment to do that. Be honest with yourself. Nobody will be looking at yours, I promise. It is not a test. It is me wanting you to kind of claim how you feel how you show up, how you want to show up, what sticks, what's you. And once you've done all of that, I want you to cross out every single thing that feels like right now. And I want you to leave in everything that feels right. Because some of our stuff is not necessarily ours. Sometimes we got it from somebody else. Sometimes we borrowed it when we shouldn't have. Sometimes these things are not ours. And I want to talk about what is yours and what is not yours. And if you're ready to do that, then we can proceed. So I'm gonna show you my I am slide, okay? I am a Black woman. I am the daughter to a Panamanian man, a very proud Panamanian man, and a South Carolinian woman. I'm a Brooklynite, born and bred. I'm an Atlean for now about 14 years. I'm a professor for about 20 years. I've been a designer for longer than that. I'm not even going to talk about how long. And I'm a warrior for truth and humanity. I really, I need things to be honest. I don't really care too much about small talk. I don't have a lot of tolerance for it. I like to have deep and meaningful conversation and connection. I'm always a champion for the underdog. I think it comes from being the youngest of 10. I'm not sure if that's why, but it is who I am. But more importantly, I'm a citizen. Not necessarily more important than all of that stuff, but just as important is that I'm a citizen. And I've spent so much of my life talking and thinking about what it means to be a citizen. So because I talked about taking risk and I want you all to take risk, I thought I should put myself out there and at least claim some of who I am publicly so that you feel safe to do the same thing. All right, so enough about me, enough about me. Let's talk about you. You all have prepared. You did everything you could to show up to this moment. And you've worked hard and you've learned through design all about these things. And they are all of these things and so much more, right? I mean, so much software you thought you were going to die, and then Adobe comes up with a new one and you got to learn a new one. If you don't know some of the things on this list, designers, I'm saying write it down. Okay. You've learned all these things, and basically, you know, in a nutshell, you've learned all things design. You are ready. You're ready. Okay. In fact, you really know how to create a powerful totality of experience. You are ready. All right. Extra points to any of my former students on the call. Please text in the chat who is the owner of this brilliant quote. And if you're my student and you don't know, I'm a little bit mad at you right now. This is not mine, this beautiful quote, but it is a brilliant, brilliant graphic design writer. And I'm not going to spoiler alert, but at the end of the call, if you still need to know who it is, I will happily answer that then. So you know how to create a powerful totality of experience. You are ready. You're so ready that you can't even hear yourself because you're going, put me in, coach, put me in, coach. And you're kind of huddling up and you finished your last semester and you feel ready. And here we go. Put me in, coach, put me in, coach. What happens? A friggin' global pandemic. You're thinking, are you serious right now? Like, unfriggin' believable. You have got to be kidding me. Like, I mean, I did all this work. I've prepared all this stuff. Here we go. A global friggin' pandemic. Okay. I need you to know that I have absolutely been where you are. I graduated from Pratt Institute the summer of 2001. I traveled that summer, explored so many beautiful parts of the world. I came back that fall. My plan was to be ready. I was ready in the fall. You know, it's sort of like the back to school time of year. There's a chill in the air. It gets serious time. It's, you know, summer fool around time is over. Time to get serious. I'm super ready. I'm in. Put me in, coach, put me in, coach. And what happens? Okay. You have got to be kidding me. This happens. Fear, panic, sadness, anxiety, rage, guilt, all these conflicting emotions. And then the guilt part is like, wait a minute, my whole life has come up to this moment. It's been building to this, and this happens. And I've prepared for something that completely feels irrelevant and gratuitous. And how could I be thinking about my design career now when look at what's happening? Like, why am I thinking of myself? What is wrong with me? But also, what the heck am I gonna do? Because my whole plan just tanked. And I get that moment. I was in that space. I was feeling that feeling. I was panicking. I know how you feel. So what did I do? Time to make a new plan. Okay, I started teaching because I felt like everybody needs to know design. And I got good at that, and I've been doing that for 20 years. At a certain point, the next calling came. And I need to talk about why that happened. I never really fit into the design spaces that I kept gravitating towards. I was attracted to these very strange jobs, and they weren't necessarily the right fit. And I kept trying to make myself fit. And I remember desperately wanting to be chosen for the job. I also never really liked competition among designers. Everywhere I worked, I felt like there was this like, oh, but look what I did. Oh, but look what he did kind of stuff. And I wanted to celebrate that rather than wanting to do better. I'm just not a competitive person by nature. And creativity on demand was bad for me, especially in those early days when I wasn't allowed enough time to do the research that I felt like I needed to do in order to build the smart solution. And it might have just been a little bit of aftermath from too many years and days living episodes of Mad Men in those ad agencies that I worked at. These are things that I knew didn't work for me. So what did work? I always fit with social justice warriors and people who wanted to change the world. And I always wanted to design things that made people's lives easier. I was always more of an advocate for designer as translator. It was always a better fit for me. And then I knew I had to pivot to what I believe is my absolute destiny. So prepare, here it is. I am on a mission to teach non-designers the power of designers to change everything and anything. The late, great Sylvia Harris, if you don't know Sylvia Harris, oh boy, now you know. She made me believe it was possible. And I still believe it's possible because every time I think it's not possible, because it's hard, I really, really, really read something she wrote. And she convinces me that it's possible. And she also taught me that it was time for me to double down on who I am. So That kind of leads me to taking a little bit more risk. I hope you have continued to fill in your sheets because I'm going to share a little bit more of mine. Sorry, wrong way. I care deeply about education. And you should too, because it's not limited to the classroom, and it's definitely not just about study. It is every single experience that we have. If you didn't learn something from it, you missed the mark. It was happening so you could learn every single thing, bad, good, or indifferent. And that is the education of a lifetime. My dream opportunity is one where I get to encourage people to expand their minds. Here's the thing, there is a seat at the table for a lot more of us than are sitting at the table right now, for a lot more of us than are allowed to sit at the table right now. Bias is real and it works on people for their whole lives. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's unconscious. Sometimes I've had students that are just the sum total of all the biases of every single person they've ever encountered. And this is why we can both have studied design and gotten degrees from the same place, and it can all still be completely unequal. If you hear nothing else from me today, please hear this. Every single person needs to identify their bias and their biases, and we need to solve them because we all deserve for you all, for us all to solve them. And just understand that, you know, people are tired of waiting, so it's time to get together. My design is nothing you could ever expect because it is not the design I was trained to do. It is not pretty and it doesn't fit neatly into a portfolio, but it is the kind of stuff that really makes me proud because it includes my latest, most exciting project, which was designing a math box experience for kids from the most compromised zip codes in Atlanta. And these are things that help me sleep at night, as opposed to when I designed for Viagra. I said it. So now back to you. Let's get you on a path to the perfect fit. I know you all are very fond of lists and numbers, and so I'm going to give you a 7-point list of what I think will help you get closer to the perfect fit and what it looks like. And please understand that it's just how it worked for me. The first is that it is a journey. The beginning of that journey looks like making it fit, and at the end is finding more and more and more of the right fit. And you have to prepare because you're going to have to kiss a lot of toads, or at least I did. But you know, sort of this little quick graphic is like, in the beginning, you get that job and you're so excited, you make it fit. You're like, yeah, this is amazing, you know? And then by the time you kind of settle down and calm down, you're like, okay, maybe that wasn't it. Let's do another one. And there's a lot of second job curse. Maybe that's not the right one. And you make it fit. And you start getting better at it as you go along the way. And then you get to a great fit and you stay longer. And you get to the right fit and you stay longer and you stay longer, because the closer you get to the right fit, the better it feels and the more you will want to do it. And you will have been chosen by the right people, and you will also have chosen the right people. And that's really more about what that journey looks like, getting better at choosing those right fits. All right, so you have to be able to identify it and allow it to evolve. You're gonna grow, you're gonna grow up. Sometimes you're gonna grow down, sometimes you're gonna grow sideways, but you're gonna grow and you're gonna change and you're gonna evolve, and the things you love today might not be the things you love tomorrow. They might not be the things you come to crave tomorrow. Once you start working, you your eyesight comes out of focus a little bit, especially in the beginning, because design is such a joyful thing. And, you know, many of us would almost do it for free. Some of us have done it for free. Most of us have done it for free. That's how much we love it. And all of these things kind of tend to sift out later when you start to get a clarity and a little bit more experience. So allow it to evolve and know that it's going to change, and listen to why it's changing, and don't deny yourself that. Every stop on the journey should be one where you learn. Even the make it fit ones, they should be the teachable ones. The journey should have a whole lot of joy along the way. I need this to be clear. Every single day you go to work, you're signing up. You have to sign up to go into work. And if you need to, you can sign out the very same way you sign up. You may falsely think that these are desperate times and you have to take whatever you can get. It's actually, I think it's the opposite. I think in times of very high stress and times of real chaos, it's the time to really choose wisely, because it is difficult to emotionally sustain hardships and through work while the world is kind of on fire. Those two things can clash, and it can become just a messy, messy existence. And design doesn't deserve that, and neither do you. Always do your homework. Every interview I went on, I came in early, I looked around, I walked around, I soaked it in. I always look for things like, do the people seem frazzled? Is there coffee? Are people smiling? Do they seem like robots? I pay attention because the signs are always there. And sometimes we don't want to see them, especially if it's a lot of razzle dazzle. A lot of design firms and these agencies can have a lot of razzle dazzle, especially around the lobby. And you can fall for things, but you should pay attention. Just remember that you are choosing where to work instead of work necessarily choosing you. You may get offers. It's yours to decide if you're going to accept that offer or not. Admittedly, the further you get into your career, the more you may have the luxury of that choice. I'm being very honest, but I was always a person who was willing to work at Target stocking shelves rather than to devalue design. It meant too much to me to not do very bad design. And so that kept me out of design at times. Remember that you don't have to say yes to things that feel wrong, and you don't want to live your career in default mode. If you look at everything default, it's always sort of generic and nondescript. Something else will always come. I can promise that emphatically. I'm sorry, I'm competing with the guy who's mowing my lawn right now. He's gonna pay for that when this call is over. The right fit is not necessarily the easy fit. Work is a different word than other words like fun and party and play. Your work should be challenging, and sometimes it's fun, and sometimes it's play, and sometimes it's, you know, sometimes it's a really good party. When it fits though, you know, you should be willing and you should want to roll up your sleeves and do whatever it takes to get that job done. Remember who you are. Remember those lists I had you make? Have you added to them? I hope you've added to them. I want you to look at what you have on each of those sheets. And remember, cross out the ones that feel like right now and leave in the ones that feel right. And I really want you to ask yourself if those 4 pages connect. Everybody this week has been talking about what to put in my portfolio. What should I have in my portfolio? For me, my answer is whatever you put, I want at least one piece that has your soul in it. When I look at work, I look for the person within the work. I want to know who is doing this and why this matters to them. And I want it to matter to me because I want to connect on that level. And if you're being authentic, that connection can happen. And if you're not, maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't like that risk. It's not calculated risk. So show up and show out. I promise you fit somewhere. So just keep seeking. If you can keep seeking, you will get there. You've done the work. I need you to start believing. You're gonna have to steady your nerves because all the good people I know have bouts of imposter syndrome. Every single one of us. You're gonna find your way and it's gonna work out. It worked out for me and I'm sure I'm no better than you are. So here's the thing. I get this question all the time. There's so many designers. Should I study design? You know, will there be design jobs? Is there a space for me? Here's the thing. We will only max this out when, ready? Everything is beautiful and relevant. Every single thing. When everything makes complete and total sense. When everyone can use everything. When everyone has access to everything. When everyone feels empowered by the right to reject any of it or all of it. But if they reject that from a position of understanding rather than in confusion, because it's easy to reject something when you're confused about it, it's empowering to reject it from a position of understanding. So here we go. Are you ready for a surprise? You're hired. I'm making you a job offer and I want to talk about what this job is. I'm offering you a job to design until every single rotten thing in this society is fixed. Now I'm hearing you right now say, okay, lady with the gray hair, I wasn't the one who broke it. I know my generation has a lot to apologize for. We don't have that kind of time today. I know you didn't break it, but I'm asking you and I'm begging you because I need your help to fix it. What I'm asking you specifically for is listen to NPR and just, I need you to get hyped. I need you to just get fully hyped. There's a lot of content there to be hyped about, and then just design. Every time you see something awful, something badly designed, design. Every time you see something beautiful, design and match that. Design. There's a lot we need to do. There's so much work, and don't sit around waiting to be chosen. You can do one project a week and show up and show out. So I just have one final question, and that is, how soon can you start?
Thank you so much, Lisa. Sorry, having some video trouble. Let me turn on the backup camera here. All right. Thanks everyone for your patience. It looks like the tech gremlins are in effect today and everybody's been having some audio and visual problems, but we've made it to day 4. Lisa, thank you again for that presentation, and everybody in the chat, this fire hose of love, as I like to say. There's so much going on there from people talking about their ages and how they're continuing to grow and how aging is a privilege and fighting ageism, to just responding to the real love and wisdom that you have been talking about, Lisa. I'm going to weave in some of these questions now and comments. The first one is about, you mentioned before when you were going into interviews before, you would show up early and try to get a feel of the place. Do you have any thoughts on how to do that for people who are interviewing now where you can't actually physically go into the studio?
Yes, this was like the one question that I anticipated. Okay, here's the thing. Information is everywhere, right? There's like Glassdoor telling it, and I can tell you that a lot of the people I've worked for, super scared of Glassdoor. People are telling the truth. Even look at who worked there, reach out to them. People want to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is sort of the Yelp moment of please tell everything. Everybody's telling everything. You don't have to wonder at all what it's like. The one thing that you will have to do is you'll have to do the research and kind of try to understand whoever's telling you that, what their bias may be. That's the part you have to sift through. Because in this keyboard empowerment moment, sometimes a lot of what we say is so much more about us than it is about what that organization is. So you've got to do that sifting.
Thank you. I think you've started to answer this question already, but I wanted to kind of pose it in this person's framing around dealing with rejection. You had said before, you know, when you see something awful design, you see something beautiful design. Any thoughts on how folks can deal with rejection as they're putting their resumes, their portfolios out there and just getting the no's or the no answers, which are often even worse?
Listen, I have more no's than you could ever have, okay? I can still tell you the ones that sting the most. There is nothing worse than feeling like this is it, this is the one. I am super perfect for this. And they say, not so much. It is brutal, brutal, brutal. But you have to understand that they are making their choices based on things that you may or may not know anything about, right? People make choices based on colors you're wearing. It is the most random and strange thing. So we don't know what that algorithm looks like. And a lot of that we can't control. So I like to fixate on what I actually can control. I want to show up my best self. I want to do my best while I'm there. And then if they don't want me, kind of it turns out they're doing me a favor because it means I don't want them either, actually.
Right. Thank you. And on that point, you had that image about making it fit and then finding fit. And Tithi, I hope I'm saying your name right, has a question. How do you know if there even is a place where you fit? Like when you're just starting out and you're not sure where the destination might be.
I'm not sure you can necessarily know if there is a place that you fit. I think it's a never-ending quest until you find places that you do fit. And even if necessarily the place didn't fit me as much, I look at the team of people, like some of my best friends are people I worked with. And we would talk frankly about, I love you to pieces. Should we be here? Is this even the right, is this a good idea what we're doing? And I just knew when it was wrong enough that I had to go. I tell my students a lot, you know, I need you to, at the end of every day, I want you to look at the percentage of your thoughts for the day. And I want you to see what percentage was negativity and what percentage was positivity. And if that ratio is off, you got to make some changes. You absolutely have to make some changes. It might be your job. It might be your spouse. It might be your date, you know, it might be your shoes. I don't know what it is, but if that percentage is off, consistently off, it's time to make changes. And that usually means your job.
Thank you. You were talking about wanting to see portfolio items that have a piece of your soul. I think there's a couple people who wanted to know a little bit more about what you mean by that, if you could elaborate.
So, you know, I think that I've taught at a lot of schools now, and there's always the list. You know, you get the portfolio class and you've got the list, and it feels a little bit like Noah's Ark. You know, you gotta have 2 packages. You gotta have three brand identity systems. You gotta have, I don't know about all of that, right? I do know that I want to look at work that feels like that person absolutely meant it, that it meant the world to them, that they could not design this, that nobody was saying this in this way, that they just couldn't stand it anymore and they had to do something about it. And so they designed. That to me is like your soul. That I don't even have to agree, but I have to connect with that. It's the only thing I can connect to. Like you can make more shampoos if you want, but it's really hard for me to connect to that. If you make a piece on how to navigate a police stop, if I'm a Black person, I'm going to connect to that.
Thank you. And on that point of connection, you mentioned earlier this theme of being a designer as being a form of translation. And when you had the I am slide about yourself, you talked about your background, your heritage, bringing together South Carolina, Panama, in Brooklyn, now in Atlanta. So how do you see that act of translation as part of your identity, both kind of as a designer and as a citizen?
Yeah, so I think it was this natural fit for me as translator. Even as I traveled the world, whoever I traveled with, even if I didn't necessarily speak the language, just like the people I came with, I would always kind of find a way to understand wherever I was and explain to the people I was with how to navigate it. And so that was a job that naturally fit for me. And it's sort of this migration that continues. I think that through my work, I think about the kids that the math box, for example, what's it like for them and how do we get math to them in a way that makes it make sense for them? And that's if we're not standing in front of a chalkboard and, with a ruler and all those kinds of things, right? So sort of this notion of having this large input and making a very simple, clean output, to me is the biggest thing that I can do. It's how I want to live my life.
And you're talking also about the right fit is not always the easy fit. Leslie had a specific example in her question about how do you deal with being like the one designer who's going into an organizational culture that's not sort of quote unquote creative or artsy, and you're the only one, and how do you deal with that?
Heavy is that where's the crown?
Yeah.
Oh boy. It is not easy. I'm going to say that a million times. It is not easy. It is not easy to make people understand the value of white space. It is not easy to make people understand, restraint in typefaces. It is not easy, right? And so, Massimo told me, this is like, God, that I just name dropped, which I try not to do, but Massimo, when, I have pictures of him at my house with my kid and we made a barbecue for him. And he was like, this is foolishness to think that you are going to teach people how to design. Don't teach people, the client, how to design, make their lives easier. And that really is, people don't argue with results is the answer. Do you know what I mean? Like once you simplify and cut through all the fluff, people can't argue because they understand. And it's all about being able to understand.
Right. It's a lot of that wisdom about like showing, not telling, or using the results rather than trying to bring them along with all the design jargon and all of the stuff that we like and is necessary, but doesn't necessarily always translate.
That's exactly right.
Delia has a question about the My Design Is prompt, which seems to be the hardest one for a lot of people, where they might know who they are, but they're not quite sure what their design is yet.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I want those other 3 pieces of paper to begin to inform that, right? So, everything about how I show up in the world, it's interesting. People believe I'm the biggest extrovert on the planet, and I am not at all. I am an introvert who shows up extrovert. So a part of that even is a part of my legacy, a part of my identity. So a part of my design kind of speaks through that, which is that it's not design that hits you over the head. It's sort of like, I just get it, right? And that really is what my design is. So it's an extension of you. I think if you're being authentic, it has to be an extension of you. Stefan Sagmeister went to Pratt, around the same time that I went to Pratt. And I love how he's talking about beauty, and it is just a wonderful thing. It was never something that, for me, it felt like a luxury that I didn't have access to. So I never thought of my design as beautiful. I thought of it as necessary. So it doesn't have to necessarily be an adjective. It can just be what it feels like.
Thank you. We'll take one more question that we have time for in this segment. So while you're talking, Lisa, a lot of folks in their 50s and 60s and above started shouting out their ages and talking about the ageism and just kind of claiming that. And so do you have any final thoughts for folks who are maybe more advanced in their careers, who are having to go through a reinvention right now? And any thoughts for that?
Listen, I am a person who doesn't even dye my gray hair. I have always lived for wisdom and elders. And the most pivotal people in my life have been the elders. So I have an unhealthy worship of gray hair and knowledge and wisdom and time into the game. Anywhere you go, if people don't recognize that, I got news for you. You don't belong there. Build it. Toni Morrison said, if the stories you want to read do not exist, write them. Just design. It'll show up. I can guarantee you it will show up. It might not show up how you want. IBM might not call you if that's what you're waiting for because they got their stuff. And Apple might not call you because they got their stuff. It might not look like you want, but I promise there is so much to design in this world right now. And we need your wisdom. Everybody in Black Lives Matter needs to understand what the civil rights movement went through in order to inform that. Doesn't mean they have to do it exactly that way, but they sure better know, right? When people die, their whole compendium of stories is gone. We can't lose stuff. We shouldn't be losing stuff. We should be documenting and honoring those elders who made us who we are and paved the way for that through design, which is why I always talk about Sylvia Harris.